I am thrilled to announce that An Actor Despairs is partnering with a wonderful CBD company called Kind Farms. Everyone out there has heard of CBD. I started taking it a few years ago when I first started getting sober and to help with my anxiety. Sadly, as one can do, I was overtraining in the gym, and a friend recommended a topical and a tincture to help with the pain. I tried it, it was okay. However, recently, I was introduced to a product that has really changed my life. Not only has it helped me with anxiety, but I am stronger than I have ever been. I'm able to carry out lifts my body used to prevent me from doing. Kind Farm products have single-handedly changed my life athletically and personally. They utilize 100% local licensed farmers, organic cultivation, and CO2 extraction for superior CBD. Kind Farms is turning CBD to a kind alternative to pharmaceuticals. Let's transform tobacco row into hemp row. If you want to get involved, please reach out. Together, we can make a difference. You can use my code RYAN10 for 10% off. You can find them on Instagram at Kind Farms Inc., all one word. That's KINDPHARMSINC, and their website is kindfarmsinc.com. Once again, my code for 10% off is Ryan10. And now, let's get started with today's show. Welcome to An Actor Despairs. I'm your host, Ryan Perez. Ladies and gentlemen, today on An Actor Despairs, we have an incredibly exciting episode with an actor who I truly love and I've been wanting to talk to for so long, Mark O'Brien. You know him from projects like Arrival, The Front Runner, City on a Hill, and we're here to talk about his new film, Blue Bayou, and the film that he directed and wrote, The Righteous. He's incredible. He's a true filmmaker, an actor, a writer. He does it all, and I really look up to him. He's a real hero of mine, and it meant so much that he took the time to come on, give back, and talk about his journey and how this wide-eyed, dreamy kid from Canada made it all happen. Mark, I love you, brother. To the future. Mark O'Brien, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Nice to see you.
It's great to see you, man. We were just briefly talking with a mutual friend, Tom Fontana, who was the second guest I ever. Dean Winters was the first.
Is that right?
Yeah, man. And dude, Jimmy Ryan, you were so good in that role, man. You know, it especially, you know, any honest actor will tell you, you know, when you see an actor that goes up for roles that you kind of are somewhat in the right for, you always kind of have that little bit of an honest one, but dude, you're fucking incredible, bro. I mean,
thanks.
You are electric, man. I mean, you make incredible choices, and I've learned so much from watching your work, and especially now getting a chance to watch some of your directing work. Like, dude, you are a motherfucking unstoppable force. And
wow. Thank you very much.
I want to be involved in whatever's next, dude.
Yeah. That's what I look in the mirror and tell myself every morning. So
yeah.
Say here, someone else.
Oh, it's all true. Just pretend I'm a mirror, man.
Yeah.
But dude, let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Canada, right?
Yeah. So I'm from Newfoundland, which is like the far east coast of Canada, which is a very artistic place. There's only like 500,000 people there, but it's the size of California. So very spread out, but everyone there was in the arts in some sort of way. And I wasn't at all. I have 3 older sisters who were they were into musical theater and stuff like that. My parents were not artists, and I wanted to be a hockey player. So that's all I focused on. And then I realized I was too lazy to ever make it far enough.
Was the hockey thing not trying to sound like racist or stereotype, but was that just a Canadian thing? You know,
dude, it's like, you know, it's like football in the States or soccer in England. Like it's it's the thing, man. Like you're exactly right. Like you kind of don't have a choice because it's just what you see so much around you so often is hockey. And I hated it. My dad put me in it because, like, you know, your parents are trying things out.
Of course.
When you're a kid, I was 7, and I was like, I don't know how to do this shit. And also, hockey is the hardest sport to learn that I've ever tried.
Oh, my God.
Impossible.
Skating's impossible. Yeah.
Stick handling, shooting, backhander, slap shots. There's so much.
Fighting.
And sorry, what?
Fighting on ice, you know what I mean?
It's impossible. It is literally an impossible sport. And I remember the first day I went, I was 7 years old. I remember clinging to the boards the whole time because I couldn't fucking skate. And my dad was on the ice. He was like one of the parents helping out, and he was a good skater. And he was like, I remember him coming over and I was crying. And I said, I have to go home. I have to go home. I have to go home. And I don't know. And then I blacked out, I guess, for the next 2 years because I don't know why I kept going back because my parents were never like pushed too hard on anything. I guess I liked the challenge at an early age because I don't know why I kept going back because I remember that first time and then I can't remember anything else except already knowing how to skate, which must have taken me a couple of years.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, man. I've kind of been dealing with some, like, I don't want to say repressed because that makes it sound like there's trauma, but just like childhood memories that like I can't remember.
Yeah.
Someone was bringing something the other day. I was like, I don't remember that at all. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Like, what was I doing between 7 and 9? I literally don't know.
Well, and it's so cool you're from there because I've had a lot of Canadian actors, but nobody from there. So what's it like growing up in such a small place? Like, what, now we live in a content bubble where you have Apple TV, YouTube.
It's crazy. I had 13 channels. There was 13 channels. We had TV where you click it over. And
American ones or all Canadian ones?
We had NBC and ABC and CBS. And then the rest was Canadian networks. Yeah. I remember having NBC, NBC, ABC, and CBS. And I feel like maybe one more. No, that's it. Because it was maybe Fox. No, Fox was later. So I remember it was 13 channels. And where I lived, there were probably, it was a huge, now it's like 40,000 people. At the time, there were like 5,000 or 6,000. There's a place called Paradise, Newfoundland was the name of it.
Wow.
And the Atlantic Ocean was right there, literally like 200 feet outside my window. And across the water is England. You know what I mean? So I remember all I did every day was play hockey and basketball and baseball and stuff. And I used to draw a lot, but I was bored. I honestly was bored a lot. Newfoundland's like, I'm a proud Newfoundlander. I love going back there. But growing up in Paradise in a small place, I was kind of bored. And I think it's because I probably hadn't found my passion yet.
Yeah.
Because I was young and like my good friends were close by, but it was still like a bit of a drive to get there.
Because it's a rural community.
Yeah, kind of. It's just kind of small, right? And then and eventually I made some friends that were closer and stuff. But I just remember it's funny how you still are the way you are. Like when you're younger and when you're older, like I hated just sitting around doing nothing. I hated it. I hated it today. I hated it then.
Yeah.
And then when I started
Speaking of the pandemic, dude, oh my God.
Oh my God. I bought a house during the pandemic. I was like, I got to do something.
Yeah. Way to go.
I got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't do it. And then and then honestly, me and my buddies used to make movies with camcorders. One of my buddies' parents had a camcorder. It was like 97 or 98.
Oh, and was The Righteous pandemic movie?
The Righteous was just before 2019.
Oh, okay.
We wrapped in December 2019. Just got out of it.
You got it.
But that's what it was like growing up home. But it was like everyone, Newfoundlanders are so fun, so gregarious and everything. And you really appreciate your home much, much more once you leave. But I did appreciate it at the time. But I think the thing I wanted wasn't really available to me. There's an artistic community there, but I wasn't part of it because my family wasn't really in the arts. My sister's singing and stuff, but I wasn't exposed to it until it's funny enough because behind you have the Marla singer, Helena Bonham Carter. Still, when I saw Fight Club, and then I was like, I want to be involved.
Right above that is.
Oh, there we go. Tyler Durden, baby. The greatest male body of all time.
Only after we lose everything are we free to do anything.
Absolutely. His name was Robert Paulson. So I got to tell you a quick story, actually, aside from that. I'm shooting this series called 61st Street right now with AMC. Yeah. I'm shooting with Holt McCallany.
Oh, dude, nice. He was supposed to do the show. Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's amazing. Yeah. He was in Fight Club. He was in Alien 3, and he was in Mindhunter, so he's a good friend of David Fincher. And the first day I met him, this was only 3 months ago. First day I met him, he's so nice. He's wonderful. He's a fantastic actor. I was really excited to work with him because we have a lot of stuff together in the show. And so he picks me up. We're in Chicago. He picks me up, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" And that's kind of the way Holt talks.
Perfect voice. Yeah.
He's such a man, and and I'm like, oh, my God. And then we're talking, and I say, listen, I'm going to end up talking about David Fincher a lot and asking you a lot of questions. He's like, not a problem, buddy, not a problem. But I don't know him, and I don't know if this is, maybe he doesn't want to talk about it because so many people probably want to talk about Fincher with him. And just Mindhunter just happened, and I'm like, I hope that's okay. You never know, right? Then he and I go to a gym together. I don't know why. We go to a gym together, and then he drops me back, and we're going to have dinner later. when we go to dinner, I see him at the restaurant and he's wearing a T-shirt that says his name is Robert Paulson. And I was like, well, I guess it's okay to talk about Fight Club. It was amazing. And he loves talking about it. And like, in the best way. Like he's excited and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
So anyway, I saw Fight Club. I was just like, man, I want to make movies, man.
Yeah. And was that a cinema or DVD experience?
No, I saw it in the theater. I don't know how I was allowed to see it. I was 15, but I guess it was. Remember, it used to be AA, adult accompaniment.
Yeah.
It was like PG, PG-13, AA, and R.
My dad was so cool. He used to, like, when kids couldn't get in, he'd be like, they're with me. And there was nothing they could say. So my dad was like the resident cool movie guy. Just like,
it's like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, parents hated him.
Like Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, he's with me. It's cool.
Oh, man.
I'll tell him to close his eyes.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you a quick funny story. You ever see it's not a great movie, but Studio 54?
Oh, the one with Mike Myers?
Mike Myers and Ryan Phillippe. So my parents were divorced and hated each other, most of their lives. It's sort of cool now, but they got divorced at 2. And the only childhood memory I have of my parents together is they took me to see Studio 54.
That's so weird.
And somebody behind us, this couple, they're like, excuse me, this movie has to deal with like cocaine and sex. And they just turn around, they go, fuck you, you fucking, And I was like, this is awesome.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know what? Mike Myers is great in that.
Dude.
There's that scene where he's like, come on, to Ryan Phillippe. He wants him to show him
my God, dude.
He's incredible in that movie.
I wanted more of that Mike Myers and less of the guru,
Yeah. Wait, you don't love Guru?
Yeah.
What a transcendent film. That's so funny. So, I remember going to see that. And we would go see, and then I started seeing movies all the time. There was like movies. And then we would make movies where we would have 2 VCRs and you'd set one up and press record on one and play on the other. And that's what we did.
Mini DV. These are the bigger tapes, right?
It was mini DV.
I had a mini DV.
That we transferred to a VHS and then the VHS to the other VHS. That was the only way we could edit at the time. And we would do it all the time.
Oh, because you didn't have a laptop.
Exactly. This was 98, 99, 2000.
Shit.
No editing equipment, no computer editing software.
My school district did something we're like the same age, did something really cool where they gave us iBooks. Like before MacBook Pro, they had a thing called iBook. So so when we were kids in 99, we had these like Apple computers. I think it must have been right before Steve Jobs came back.
Oh my God.
And so I got to know iMovie really young.
Oh my God. I didn't know iMovie until like 2009.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was like, just trying to find some way to edit something.
Well, dude, that's why you're so much more skilled than me. I was spoiled. That's awesome.
I was like, anything I could find. Like, if I could find a Steenbeck, I would have been using it back then because we had nothing else.
So as you were seeing these films, and obviously Chuck Palahniuk, David Fincher, what was the thing that I don't want to say, maybe style, like what was resonating with you? Like, what were you, when you were making films, what were you trying to do?
We were trying to, it's always been a David Fincher, really. It was like, I just, because you didn't know directors. That's when I started to know directors. And then and now I still do it. There's so many directors you discover and you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen any J. Lee Thompson films or I haven't seen any Joseph Losey films. And you go down the rabbit hole and you watch all of them.
Kurosawa, and then you just get
I remember. So, dude, my mind exploded. I think it was like I was talking about. I was growing up, lovely childhood, really close to my sisters, close to my parents, loved playing hockey, didn't have the dedication for it. But then when movies happened, I was like, oh my God, like, there's so many movies to discover. And I just went off. So around 98, 99, 2000, 2001, I was just like, I got to see like every Ridley Scott movie now. And I have to do this. So, but really for me, I think the thing that really, the director was Fincher and then it was Hitchcock, really. It was like, because once I discovered Hitchcock, I was like, oh my God.
Psycho or Vertigo? Usually it's one of those two.
Psycho was the first one I saw.
Yeah,
that was the first one I saw. Because that was the famous one, right? You always start with the famous one.
Did you have the quintessential, blockbuster experience?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I was obsessed with I'm still a collector of movies. And so the previously owned, and I could buy them. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, for like $5, right?
For like $5. It was amazing. I go in and raid the store. And I used to look up when movies would be released on DVD. And then I'd be like, and about a month and a half after it's released is when I can go get the previously owned one at Blockbuster.
That's awesome. Dude.
Like break
Our childhoods
it down
are the same, minus that's so rad.
Walking out being like, what a haul I got. Like, this is crazy. They're just giving them away.
Well, obviously, your parents notice you probably with a big camera and editing on VHS. At what point do you kind of go to them and you're like, Mom, Dad, I'm really into this thing, like, or did that never happen till later? It
kind of happened really naturally because my parents were really cool in the way that this almost sounds negative, but it's a positive. There was nothing they encouraged me to not do, and there was nothing they encouraged me to do.
Nice.
It was just like, he'll just figure it out, I guess. And I went to university. I studied English literature. I finished my degree.
Where at, if you don't mind? For those
Memorial University in Newfoundland. I was in Newfoundland. Cool. So it's the biggest university on the east coast of Canada, and it was a great place to study, and it was at home, and all my friends were there, and I loved studying stories and stuff like that. And I did like a diploma program at the same time. So I'd be in school for a while there, and then I hosted a kids show for a little while in a Canadian thing, like in between shows. And I was doing that, and I was working at the library at university. And then I did my regular course load all day. And then at night I did my diploma course load, which was my diploma was in performance and comedian performance. And what was it? Performance and communications media. I don't know why they call it that.
Got it.
It was getting to know camera and theater at the same time. And so I do that at night. And then make movies on the weekend. So I literally was like 15 hours a day all the time. So when I started actually acting in movies and you work for 15 hours, I was used to it. I was like, man, that's what I just did for 4 years.
Oh, so your stamina was incredible.
So I was used to it. And so with my parents, it was all kind of happening at the same time. And I was like, my goal was always to save up and move to Toronto because Toronto was the big city. Right. And I was like, I got to get to Toronto, and that's where I'll get in like movies and stuff.
And was this before Vancouver really had the film scene?
Yeah, kind of. It was like kind of bubbling then, and
because now it's a bit more binary, right? It's like you do Toronto or you do Vancouver, right?
That's exactly. Depending on what coast you're kind of born on. So I was born on the East Coast, so Toronto was the place to go. If I was born in Calgary, I probably would have went to Vancouver, and so
I guess Montreal is an exception. Sorry, I'm not for those.
Montreal has an amazing amount of things, but a lot of them are French.
Yeah, so, Xavier Dolan,
exactly. Denis Villeneuve, Jean-Marc Vallée, and on and on and on. There's so many, but a lot of they're French films. So I was like, that's not really the place to go. So it was Toronto, and then I ended up booking a show, a miniseries called Above and Beyond, that shot in Newfoundland, and it was a $10 million miniseries about World War II, and I had a pretty good part, and that was enough to get me like my first agent and stuff. But it was. And I'd done the kids show before that. So, I mean, it was really one step at a time. I mean, that's the thing I've learned more than anything is that it's really one step at a time. It's brick by brick. And it's like, there is no destination because it's always changing all the time anyway. And that's why when it's like, my parents didn't even really notice because it was happening so slowly. And then I started hosting a kids show, and then I got the miniseries. Like, oh, Mark's in a movie. Okay, cool. And now Mark's moving to Toronto, and now I'm trying this thing, and then I got no work in Toronto, and it was absolutely terrible for a few years. And then I got a show that shot back in Newfoundland, so I went back there, but then I couldn't get any other work. So every time there's something great, it kind of lets you see the peak of the mountain a little bit. So you're like, everything's great, but I want that thing. And that's what I want to get to.
The never-ending moving goalposts, dude. It's
never ending. But if you have a goal and you get there, then you have nothing to work for. So it's a beautiful thing at the same time.
And so while you were at school, were you doing any kind of acting classes?
Oh, nonstop. I did everything I could get my hands on. Like, I was in acting class at night there with the diploma program. We had an acting class.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So that was 2 nights a week, 3 hours each set, so 6 hours a week. And at the same time, I was doing local theater. And I remember one of my buddies was like...
Local, not being off campus or on campus?
It was, local as in, it was in Newfoundland.
Got it.
But it was off campus. It had nothing to do with university.
Okay.
So I had to find time to go to that. And I mean, I started my first... This is how hard it is for actors starting out. It's like, you kind of have these dreams like, I'm going to get this big role or something like that. My first thing I did on stage was a play called Bye Bye Birdie, which is the...
Oh, dude, I did it. I was like... the guy who can't sing, and I had one line.
I was reporter number 2.
Oh, so we had the same thing.
Yeah, I was reporter number 2, and I had to sing in the chorus, and I can't sing.
Me either.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
You're like going in and you're kind of.
And I had to do the dance move.
Oh, dude, the whole thing is so hard. It was embarrassing. I was like, I don't know how to do any of this, and I would mime singing all the time. And it was fucking
you
brutal.
quiet sing so you think the chorus makes up for you.
Exactly. You're like, no one's really noticing.
Yeah.
But then, like, sometimes you go to the male chorus rehearsal, and there's only 4 of you there, and you're like, I can't fucking blend in with this.
I know.
Like,
oh God, I had a chorus teacher that was like, dude, you suck. I'm like, I know.
I told you this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just don't have me sing. Am I adding anything to this chorus?
Oh God.
But it's like that's where you start. You know, so I was doing everything I could. I remember one of my buddies was like, oh, man, how much are you getting paid for that play? I was like, nothing. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. I didn't get paid for anything for years. Like, you don't start out getting $50,000 or something. He was like, man, I'd never do that. I was like, well, I don't know. That's how you start. You know what I mean? So it was very intense, and it was all for very little. But I think even at the time I knew I was like, I'm building something. And also when you have an excitement to learn, I was like, I'm learning. I know I'm learning, which still is obviously today. And it's like, when you're aware that you're learning, it takes the burden off the lack of money or the lack of glory, because you're like, oh man, I just learned something really important, which for me, as my career's gone on, it happens even more so because you're even more aware of how much I don't know, totally. Which you are as a person too. So it's actually this wonderful blessing to keep being burdened because each time I learn more each time that it's hard than I do when it's good. Yeah.
Which kind of brings it back to Fight Club, is like becoming this apprentice to learn this skill, to do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious, while you were there, you know, I don't know the Canadian market as well. So tell me, were casting or any of those kind of people coming to your shows or classes?
Nothing.
Wow.
So I remember there was 1 or 2 local directors who saw me in another play and put me in a play. And I was like, oh my God, that was the first time I was like, oh, I think I'm doing an okay job. Because I was always pretty confident, but I was also like, I don't know how good I am, but I feel like I'm doing what I can. Yeah. As opposed to like being the best. It's like, this is as good as it felt good. And that was as far as it went. And then I hosted this kids show for 2 years, which I started out being like, oh my God, cool, I'm on TV. And then I hated it more than anything because I wanted to be a serious actor. Yeah. And I was like, I'm doing 0 to 5 years old, like, hi kids,
Blue's Clues style. Yeah.
Right down, looking into the camera. And I just, it was really soul sucking for me after a while. It was wonderful people I worked with, but
how did you get out of it?
To be honest, I was let go because there was a play I wanted to do at the time. And the head of the network, this woman who shall remain nameless, but I have no contact with her since. And she was very, very inconsiderate. I remember I wanted to do this play, and she was like, well, there's some adult content in that. And I said, it wasn't that bad, by the way. It wasn't like, I wasn't doing
red light winter.
Shame.
Yeah.
It was like, I was like, it's not that bad. And they wouldn't let me do it. And I remember my contract was ending in like a month. And I got on the phone with her, and I didn't have an agent at the time. And I said, look, I have to do this play. I have to do it. Outside of doing this kid show work, I have to do this play. It means a lot to me. I'm trying to, build my career. I'm about 22 at the time. And she was like, no. And I said, okay, are you going to renew my contract in a month? Because there's been no talk of that. And like, are you going to renew my contract? And like I said, I didn't have an agent. And she said, absolutely. And so I felt beholden to the show, to the kid show. I was like, I should do it. That's, I said I would be on this show. Okay, I'll not do the play. They didn't renew my contract and let me go. And it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but it goes to show those things that happen.
Wait, did that fuck you from the play?
Oh yeah, the play was already done. It was too late.
What?
I needed to let them know about the play. Rehearsals were starting in like a couple weeks, and my contract was in like a month and a half.
I am gonna hunt this girl down and send her some fake dog
I haven't
shit.
forgot her name.
Oh,
I haven't forgot. And I was like, and she was, the way she handled it was really, really crappy too.
Who does that? Oh.
I know it was absolutely awful. I was like, man, that's just so
I'm so
terrible.
Sorry, Mark, man. Fuck
yeah,
her.
well, but it's the greatest thing.
I hope she's listening now, because fuck you.
Yeah, I know. She knows who she is, and fuck you. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just, at the time, because it was my source of income and I was going to move to Toronto.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my money I'm making. Because I didn't make a ton of money, but pretty good for like a 21-year-old.
Better
so
waiting tables, you know?
Yeah. And so I had to go to Toronto and wait tables right away because I was like, well, I thought I was going to do that for another little while and then move to Toronto. And then I moved to Toronto and did not work at all for like 2 or 3 years. Absolutely nothing. And I was like, I had no money. I went completely into debt. And I had student loans at the same time. I paid through all my university. So I was like, I'm like 50 grand into debt and I'm making nothing and not booking any work. So that was like the start of a really hard stretch. That was like,
well, if you don't mind, you know, because I love that you shared that and thank you for doing that. A lot of actors listening, particularly now, you know, still coming out of a pandemic, maybe, God forbid, about to dive into something kind of weird again with this Delta thing, are dealing with exactly that. So how did you buoy yourself during that time?
You know what I did? I made my own short films. I wrote my own stuff. I rented the camera, put it on a credit card. Like I said, I was broke. And back then, now there's no excuse because it's like I had to rent a camera. I didn't have a camera on my phone at the time. I had the Razor phone. That's what time period.
Oh God, I remember that one too.
There was no video.
Yeah.
So I was like, I couldn't make a movie. So I would rent a camera from like an audio visual production house, write a script and shoot it with my friends. And I did that over and over and over and over and over and over. And the biggest thing I learned from that, and during the pandemic, I mean, I have a 3.5-year-old. I still wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And it's like the reason why not every actor has to be a writer, but there are ways to hone your skills. And when I was writing all those shorts that never got into any festivals, by the way, completely rejected from everywhere. Anything I made during that period, complete rejection. And not getting any work on top of it. So it was like literally 100% rejection across the board. And so, but what I learned was when you write and direct your own stuff, even if you don't want to be a director, when I'm on set now, I have such an understanding of that camera and what they're doing, and it affects your performance. Because I don't believe in when actors go in, they're like, I'm just a character. I don't care about the technical qualities. It's like, well, good luck, motherfucker, because it is a technical medium. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough if you don't understand that you're not in the shot when you're supposed to be, or you're not in your light, or the camera is moving around you and you can dance with that camera a little bit in certain ways while still being in character. I think that's your job. So when someone's like, don't tell me what the camera's doing, I'm like, you know, maybe you should know a bit more about that because you're working at a camera's medium job. So anyway, so I learned so much about that then that like you understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I talked to a director recently who said, she said, I don't like, and I said, I love to know the coverage when we do a scene. When we start to do a scene, I'd love to know the way you're shooting it. And she was like, oh, I don't like actors who save it for the close-up. I was like, I never save anything for the close-up. Yeah. But it's helpful to know the way you're shooting it.
Yeah.
It just is helpful in whatever way that works within, I think, most actors' brains. I think it's really helpful to tell people that. So anytime I've directed, I try and tell people that. I'm like, here's the way we're going to shoot. Unless they specifically don't want to know. That's up to them. But I never believe in that saving a performance kind of thing. If you know the camera well, which you should, you're going to probably give a better performance and know where your stamina lies. Because you might go into a scene thinking they're going to do it in 1, and it's only going to take an hour, and it takes 5. And what happens then? You're gassed at the end of it. You're pissed off.
Right. You blew your load early. Yeah.
Why are you doing more coverage? Why are you doing all this? Whereas if you knew it to begin with, it's just like getting on a plane. If you get on a flight that you think is an hour and it turns into 5, you're fucking pissed.
Yeah.
But if it's 5 and it ends up being 4:40, you're fucking well, we saved 20 minutes.
That's awesome, man. And I'm curious, you know, do you feel like even though they didn't get into short films and they didn't get you at the Oscars shorts or LA shorts even, you working those waiting table jobs and doing that, but just having that creative outlet is what kept you sane during those 3 years?
100%. And I'll even tell you this. I worked as a theater usher at one point while they were doing Dirty Dancing, the musical. And it was 3 goddamn hours long. And I had to stand in the theater and watch it every night. And even just watching that, I remember watching the way every single character, and I just studied them, and some of them were good and some of them were bad.
Yeah.
And it was I actually thought it was a pretty decent show, to be honest. But I was like, just studied the whole thing. I was like, oh, that's kind of how you do it. And this guy kind of stepped out a little bit while he was going off. This guy's too much. Like, it's just study. And I remember one day, this is the thing that stuck with me the most during that, when I was working as the usher. There were like 20 of us, by the way. It was a huge theater. And And I remember there was a guy in the chorus, a dancer. And I remember walking into the theater one day and seeing him talking to someone outside. Like he showed up, he was about to get ready and stuff. And I remember him saying to the person he was talking to on the street, saying, anyway, I got to go to work. And I was like thinking, it's so cool that guy's work is this job. And he was just in the chorus. And I was like, that is so cool for him. And that's what I think about anytime I complain on set or complain when I'm off set. I'm like, I'm working as an actor right now.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And I think about that guy all the time. I mean, that was 15 years ago. And I still think about that all the time.
God, dude, I love your fucking energy. I'm so glad we met, man. I needed this today. Dude.
You do anything.
I know, God. Do you do classes?
Yeah.
You make it drunk and I can snort? Yeah. But, dude, that's so rad, man. And I'm curious because, like, any honest actor will tell you, you know, when you start this journey, you know, obviously experiences like Fight Club and Psycho, it's like Hollywood. But as you start to go on, I love what you just said about the chorus guy. It starts becoming like, God, you know, waiting tables for 3 years. It would just be so cool to have a job doing what I love and make money and not have to do this. So as you started to struggle, do you feel like it was just like, God, it would just be cool to get an episode of a show, or you know what I mean?
I went like this. The goal was to, like, I thought I was going to arrive in Toronto and be in the lead of a movie. That's what I thought. That's what a lot of people, I think, kind of think at some point. So I was like, yeah, that's going to happen. Then nothing happened for such a long time that then I had to get a job after like a month or something. So I got a job as a server, and I remember being like, I just want to make enough money so I don't have to be a waiter.
Yeah.
And then after months and months and months passed, a year or two or whatever, I remember thinking, I just want to make enough money so I don't have to do this 4 or 5 times a week. If I just had to do this once or twice a week, I would die happy.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd be so happy to just do this once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's where it went. And it's like, and that's the stuff you got to remember, because we are lucky. And the other thing is too, it's like, and then when you start getting smaller roles and stuff, and after having directed a film, and after I watch so many films, I watch a movie every morning, the one line is so important, especially when you make a movie and you're like, I've been in stuff where I'm like, that director doesn't remember me. I'm like, well, I directed a movie and I remember every background movement. I'm like, I like how that guy tapped his knee just there. Like, you don't forget it. And as an audience member, you are taken out of a movie so quickly. So my wife and I, she hadn't seen Uncut Gems yet. We watched it last night. You've seen it? Have you seen it?
I haven't. I've been saving it for.
Oh, dude, it's a good save. Well, Criterion's really
I love Good Time, and but like I heard that one's a dark one. And to just be honest, my podcast is called Actor Despairs. I've been in a dark place. I'm like, let me save that for like a day. There's a rainbow out, and
it's pretty. That's a good idea. It's pretty dark and nerve wracking. But there's a woman in that who has 2 little tiny scenes where she's a receptionist. And last night, me and my wife were talking about her so much. She was like, man, she's good. Isn't she good? She's like 6 lines. And I was like, who is that? I looked her up. I had to look up who it was. I can't remember her name now. But
I always call that the Ben Mendelsohn Place Beyond the Pines. You know, did you see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Who's
that guy? Like, that guy. I want a movie about him, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It brings so much to it. And I remember thinking that it was like slumming it or something to be a small role. And it's like, no, man, like every role's and good directors care so much who has even like 2 lines in their movie. They're like, I really care because I wrote them.
Dude, I'm not just saying this. You're one of those actors, man. Everything I've seen you do, you make choices and you know what you're doing, and to exist in, whether it's the, you know, you're in every scene in something like season 1 of Tom's show, City on a Hill, or something like Arrival. You know what I mean? Where you're with 2 of the biggest actors in the world. Just, you're brilliant, dude. And
thanks, man.
This leads me into my question of finding your voice. Is that something that you felt like happened while making your films and while struggling, or did that not happen until you started working, or was it a amalgamation of both?
I think it was like, as you work, like I didn't want to go to, I never wanted to go to theater school because I was like, I feel confident enough. Like I've told this story a lot, but I got interested in acting by watching Edward Norton in Primal Fear. So obviously Edward Norton had a big effect on me because then I saw Fight Club and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I want to know who that actor is. I've never, because at that time, Denzel Washington is and Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts. But I was like, I never heard of this guy. Like, he's really good at acting. I never really thought about that before. And so for me, it was like that really spurred something on for me. And I knew, I was like, he's just a guy who's doing it. I'm a guy who could just go do it. What's the difference between me and him? Circumstance. Everybody's either everyone's got a like better than someone else or not as good as someone else. Everyone is born in somewhere different than the other person. Sure. So to say I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not born in New York City or something like that, but I have an advantage. I'm actually born in Newfoundland where there's not as many people and there's an artistic community that wants to support people that I can go and just do it. So I'm going to take advantage in a different way. And why can't I be as good as him? Yeah. And so that gave me like a confidence it was a logical confidence. It wasn't like a bravura that I had or bravado that I had. It was like, that's just logical though. Why couldn't that person be as good at that thing as that other person standing next to them? Yeah. In a different way. Totally. And so I was like, so I always felt confident. And then I started to find my voice a bit. I think I did this Canadian series called Republic of Doyle for 6 years. It was sort of an action comedy kind of show. And I played sort of the comedic relief of the show. And I really embraced it and really loved every minute of it. But I think in the last few seasons, I started to realize the parts of the character I liked. But then I started to realize, like, I've played this thing so long in 6 seasons that it really opened me up to the kind of work I want to do. Yeah. And a lot of that work I want to do was within that show at the time. But it was like, I think from doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, it just really helped. And then I moved to LA and I kind of knew what I wanted. I knew the people I wanted to work with because you have a similarity with people too. Like if me and Jimmy Joe, the filmmaker, sit down and watch all the same movies, I'm an actor, he's a director, and we have watched all the same movies separately. And I go in an audition for him and his script is kind of like all those movies. Yeah. I kind of know what they're looking for in an indescribable kind of way. Totally. Because you're on the same page tonally and your voice is very similar. Yeah. And I realized that early on. I was like, well, I just need to study the hell out of the people that I admire. Yeah. And I want to work with people who make those kinds of things. Yeah. And I've actually found that to be, because it's a weird notion, but I've actually found it to be helpful for me, if not successful, but certainly helpful to think about it that way.
Well, and being as talented as you are and going the other direction, and this is the thing that I think all actors and even myself, how do you be good in something that's not great? Like, because you're so lucky if you get a job that like you kind of like starting out, most of the time it's years of doing things you don't like until you get a co-star or a guest star in something that you like.
It's the greatest learning lesson. Yeah. Doing something that's not good. Yeah. And every actor has done stuff that's not good. And that's the greatest learning lesson. Because when you go from something that is not good, and then you get to go work on something that's great, it's kind of like, Holt McCallany said this to me recently when we talked about Mindhunter. He said, I was given a tuxedo and taken to the greatest ball on earth and seated down to have a Michelin star meal, and all I had to do was not spill it on me. That's what Mindhunter was to him. Wow. And I love that because he's like, it's there. You just have to eat the food. Yeah. And so when it's really great, you just got to eat the food. So, and that's great. That's wonderful, but you're not going to learn anything. Yeah. So the best is when it's like, I don't know my way around this. And the role I'm doing right now in 61st Street is a great role. I'm very excited about this show. And the challenge is the character is in it a lot. He's one of the leads of the show, but he doesn't talk as much. And for specific reasons, nothing physically holding him back, but it's like there's a lot going on and he doesn't speak as much. And I often play pretty extroverted characters a lot of times who have a lot to say. And so that's been the challenge. And it's like, what a great challenge to have. Like what a gift as opposed to doing something that I've done already.
It's so interesting because I'm actually, after this, I have to go learn something in sign language for an audition. So I'm dealing with, yeah. So that's so interesting, man. And I'm curious then, when you moved to LA, what made you coming from the East Coast of Canada, what made you, just because of your agency, you went to LA versus New York?
I'd been there a few times and it just felt like that was where the most was happening.
Got it.
And I just felt like, and I was always more interested in living in New York than LA, always, my whole life.
Oh,
like
you
once
were?
that became an idea, always.
Oh, wow.
But LA just seemed like, I was like, it just seems like this is where the stuff's happening. And remember when we left Canada, not like a lot of people said this to me, but I'd heard it around where it's like, oh, you're going to LA now. I was like, I'm not going to LA to abandon Canada. I'm going to cover as much ground as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've gone back and done 2 movies, 2 Canadian films that I'm very proud of. Goalie and Hammer were both Canadian. Love those films. And I wanted to cover as much ground. And I felt like in LA, it's the place where most of the meetings happen and I can be in person for most of the auditions.
Totally.
And so it sort of made sense in that kind of way. And again, I really linked up with a great manager and a great agent, and it just all made sense. It made sense.
You an American one? You mean?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have a Canadian agent still to this day because she's amazing, and she does just as much work as everyone else. So then I just added to the team.
Love that, dude. That's so beautiful, man. And obviously getting a visa and coming to America and doing that thing, and you're married. Was that a trying transition for you?
It's I got to tell you, man, getting a visa is not easy. Like, I shouldn't say that because it's so hard for so many people, but I can only relate to my own experience.
Yeah. And
my own experience, I mean, it's funny because I just did Blue Bayou, which is all about this and how hard it is for other people. And I can't even imagine it because even for someone who, I did grow up lucky. I grew up with a wonderful family who loved me and took care of me and was really protected and supported and all that kind of stuff. And moving to the States was relatively easy. But within that realm, it is very difficult. It's still really a tedious process. But we worked really hard on it. Myself, my wife, it was a very expensive process too. So, and the funny thing you hear is you hear a lot from people, oh, you going down there? Do you have something lined up? And you're like, no, nothing.
Yeah.
I've never, and every Canadian actor or Australian actor, British actor wants to book their first American job.
Totally.
It's like it's a thing. And I was like, I have nothing. We have no idea what's going to happen. And it was the same thing when I moved to Toronto. And it was again, so it's a scary thing, but I was so excited. I just couldn't wait.
That's so beautiful, man. And having that and, doing, there's something doing it in a palm tree setting that is very soothing for the soul is tough as LA as can be, man. But that's awesome. And did you enjoy LA and start to find that
I
first?
loved it right away.
Yeah.
I loved it right away. And look, I got to tell you, it was funny when we immigrated we were at Toronto at the airport because I lived in Toronto for years. And then when we got out, it was actually a blizzard that day. And it took a long time when you immigrate. You have to go into like another room. It's a whole thing. Like I said, it's a very, very long process. I shouldn't say it's hard because there's so many people it's actually hard for, but it's long.
Yeah.
It is. It's long and detailed. So we were taken to another room and everything. Then it was a huge storm. And then we were like, are we going to get out? And we had so many bags. We had a cat. We had the whole thing. And then when we got out, I felt like it was like the end of Argo. Like we were like hugging, like we made it.
Wow.
We made it out because it was just like it was so crazy. And when we got here, I still feel like this. That was 6.5 years ago. No, that was 7.5 years ago. And I still feel the excitement of LA being movie town. Wow. I still feel it. I just love it. It's a place for movies. And even though I know it's not as many things shoot here and stuff like that, but if you can be here and actually live here and support yourself and be able to audition stuff, that's fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
Like it's just cool. It's a cool thing to drive to an audition in LA, no matter what it's for, no matter if you're going to get it or not. What a fucking cool position to be in.
Yeah. That's so cool, Mark. I love that for you, man. And talk, because I do want to get to Blue Bayou and The Righteous,
Sure.
But quickly, something like City on a Hill, like where you have an accent that's so particular and there's so many SNL and different sketches that make fun of it and not getting lost in that. You're so incredible as that character, man. And you didn't let the accent dictate the character. You just... You played it beautifully, and he's a wild card, and he's all over the place. But you didn't let the accent ruin you, and especially coming from Canada, talk to me about that because you were so fucking good in that, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's just honestly, like I don't like acting class. Yeah. Here's why I don't like acting class. I don't not support acting classes. I don't like going to them myself for the reason that I like to do it to do it. I like to do it where it exists. That's where I get excited. It exists on camera. We did it, or you're in a play or whatever. But it's like, if we're talking about film and TV, it's like we're making it now. I don't really want to practice making it. I don't have the juice for it. I actually wish I did.
Yeah.
But I don't have the juice for that. The juice for me is watching so many movies. And it's not like I'm taking a character ever from a movie I watched, because I'm not interested in that. But when you have that many ideas of story and of actors and characters and how they all meld together, I feel like that is the research. And same thing with an accent. When you've watched, The Departed and Good Will Hunting and Mystic River and Friends of Eddie Coyle and all these movies 10 billion times, and just like other accents, it's kind of just there. You're like, oh, I think I can just tap into it. And then they're like little things you just break. Obviously, there's the R's, but it's like, to me, it was more like the O's and stuff. Like, it wouldn't say, I'm gone out, or where's he gone? You'd be like, where's he gone?
Yeah.
Gone. Like, what I mean?
It's
like
an AH instead of an O,
Yeah. A lot of those.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a dialect coach, actually. So
you didn't?
No one inserted. I didn't have one.
No way, dude! You deserve a fucking Golden Globe. That's no wonder they're canceled. They didn't give you one.
There's an accent award. No, we didn't. We didn't have. I don't know if anyone else did. The production, I don't think. I certainly didn't have one. And it just felt comfortable. It was like I just heard that character's voice in my head, and which is a bit higher than my actual voice, but higher pitched. So every time we do ADR, they were like higher pitched. And I was like, oh, yeah, it is. Like, I didn't notice it. Yeah. So if you don't focus on it, like, I appreciate what you said about being like the accent doesn't dictate the character. If you don't focus on it so much, then the accent, it's all part of one. It's like the way they move informs the way they speak. And the way they speak informs the way they move. And that's so important as well. And it's the way their tics are and everything like that comes out naturally because you get the whole person, as opposed to like planning technical things, which is something I would never be interested in doing. So for me, I think it just comes from a wealth of watching movies and seeing what works and what doesn't work in a way that is just, it becomes ingrained in you. Like, when you learn lessons and you're like, I'm going to remember that quote for the rest of my life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, you don't, but you end up living by that quote because it becomes a part of you in a way that you can't describe in words. And I feel like that's what watching film is. And I'm always amazed when people are like, are in the film business or directors and don't really watch movies. I'm like, your wealth of knowledge is right there. It's like, it's all right there.
Especially with an Apple TV now, you can have, 5 million movies in one day.
It's all there. Like, and it's just sitting in front of you. Like, just use that. Like,
it's like that Good Will Hunting, you're going to realize you paid for an education that you could have paid 50 cents for at the library.
In late charges at the fucking local library. You're there reading board.
How do you like them fucking apples?
Yeah, I read that too. Greatest scene of all time. Greatest scene of all time.
Oh, God, dude. Scott Winters, Dean's brother.
Yes, I know the ponytail. Do you know when we found that out like 2 years ago?
You didn't? Did you meet him on City?
You know what clicked? I was rewatching Good Will Hunting probably a few years ago for the 9,000th time, and I was like, "God damn it, that guy looks like Dean Winters." It was not until then, and I was like, "Oh, it's Dean Winters' brother!" Amazing. Well, we'll be going on a ski trip, and you'll be serving us as a driver. So good.
Dude, that's awesome, man. We'll talk to me about Blue Bayou, and then we'll do The Righteous Man, because that's but that was at Cannes, right?
Yeah, just premiered at Cannes, and to a good response, I think. Look, Justin Chon, the writer, director, star, and I think he was a producer on it as well. He's a beast, and this guy is just got so much heart and talent and humanity to him. I met him. Before the movie, we just met and just got along right away. And then it was just, I was in the movie. Yeah. And I love the script because it was so smart, because it deals with immigration. But to me, what I get out of the film is that it's actually more about the bureaucracy of immigration is so heartless and not judged on a case by case basis. It's so hard to have these broad rules for anything. And that's the thing I got from it. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, can't people make judgment calls? Yeah. It's like all these broad rules, and it was just so heartless. And so I was just excited to be part of that movie. I was so excited. And Alicia Vikander, obviously, I'm a huge fan of hers. Oh, man. And I like the role too. I play Ace. I play a cop who's kind of like I really respected Justin for not just writing a cop who's just a piece of shit. Yeah. Because what's happening right now in the world, I don't think it's helpful at all to look at all cops as the enemy.
No,
I'm doing a series.
People doing complicated things.
They're human beings, man. I just did a ride along with cops in Chicago for this show for 61st Street. Nicest guys in the world.
What was that like? I mean, Cook County. I mean, dude, that is
they were like going around Southside Chicago, and these guys were like, we're just trying to do our jobs. And they like, you gotta, not every cop is the same. Yeah. Just like not every person you run into the street is the same. So to paint everyone with the same brush is dangerous. And I thought Justin did a really smart job of seeing the gray in between with the role. And that's what I liked. He's a guy who just wants to see his kid, wants to get his kid back. And at the same time, he's also kind of compromised too. Like, it's a tough position to be in, and I really like that he showed that.
There's no Golden Globes this year, but you're gonna fucking go, dude. You're gonna be nominated, man. I know it. I feel it. I see it.
I hope. Look, I'm pulling for Justin and Alicia. Justin is, like I said, I couldn't think.
I love Justin and Alicia, but dude, I love Mark, man, and there's nothing more I would love to see. And I'm getting the heads up note, so. Dude, you're gonna have to come back on that one. Let's jump in The Righteous and then wrap it up. So, talk to me about where did the idea for this one come from?
So this is the movie that I wrote and directed. That I think I've always been such a fan of Bergman and Tarkovsky and the great filmmaker Carl Theodor Dreyer, and I really liked psychological horror because I think dread is so much more interesting than gore. And I wanted to make something, and I love playing with surrealism. So to me, really, it's about an ex-priest who's facing the vengeance of a wrathful god after a mysterious stranger shows up at his house. And it stars Henry Czerny, who's great, who's back in the new Mission Impossibles. He was in the first one, Kittredge. Yeah, and he was in Ready or Not. He played my dad. Anyway, and he's been in a million other things. I don't know why I'm trying to pitch. People know who he is. And Mimi Kuzik, a great actress, and myself. And
great actor.
He's another cover. And look, it's about this man trying to deal with something from his past, and it has a surreal touch to it too. But it's I would categorize it as a psychological horror because it's that feeling of something that's beneath it all that you don't know how to deal with. While we're kind of doing, I kind of want to do like a sort of not plot book conceit we're used to, where a mysterious stranger shows up and what's he going to do? Yeah. But turning that on its head so that it's not what you think it's going to be and you don't know what it's going to be. And at the same time playing with tone and genre. So it's changing every few minutes. Yeah. And that was really important to me to do something like that.
Well, dude, it's so fucking good. For the world listening right now, when can we see both of these? I want to plug them. When Blue Bayou is in September. What
September
about The Righteous?
17th. What about The Righteous premieres at Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal on August 15th.
Do you have distribution yet or not yet?
We do. We have a distributor in Canada, Vortex, and I don't know where it's going outside of, but I'm very pleased to premiere at Fantasia. That's where Ready or Not premiered.
Dude, Fantasia's the best, man.
It's a great festival.
Great home for it.
Yeah. So we'll see where it goes from there. And you know what? To even be in a festival we're still in the pandemic with mitigated amount of films and things being canceled. So we're just so happy that we are at a festival and a great one.
Dude, you have to come back because I feel like we just scratched the surface and there's so much more to add. And dude, I love you as a human now. And I feel like I've known you forever. But, two final questions, man, because I always try to bring these for the actors and the artists listening. To all the young marks out there that are wide-eyed and don't live in New York or LA and don't have celebrity parents or, and really want to get into this thing, any words of wisdom you might have for them?
There's always a way you can do it. Like, your passion will inform you. If you're passionate enough about it, you're going to do it. So there's no point ever thinking you're going to quit because you can't help it. And that was what happened with me. I couldn't help it. And I had no money, no connections, no one near me, completely broke. I grew up broke, like never had there's no reason I should be an actor or working in LA. There's no reason for it to be happening. You can do it because you must do it if you love it enough. And if you don't love it enough, it's okay to go do something else that you love more. Pick the thing you love the most and don't stop doing it because you will be rewarded. and then you will be unrewarded, and then you will be rewarded.
A series of high highs and low lows.
And that's the juice. So you just keep going. Just keep going. The only way you can fail is by not doing it.
That's awesome, man. I love that. And obviously, as you said, that's so cool that you got your thing in Fantasia, but it's been a dark time, and we're still sort of in this pandemic, and it looks like it might get possibly weird again. What's been keeping you sane and inspired, man?
Honestly, my love of film and literature and my family. And you know what? I'll tell you this: when I'm so lucky to have a job and go shoot 61st Street, but it was a year off from finishing season 2 City on a Hill till now. And when I went away and I shot, and I love doing what I'm doing, the days I had off, I just missed my family. And with what's going on right now, it's like, just enjoy it, because one day it's going to be gone anyway. Yeah. And just enjoy the people that you love as much as it's boring, probably. Yeah. Just enjoy it. And the other things you love, do what you have to do to feel great. That is ethical. And if it's like, oh, I shouldn't watch another movie, I shouldn't eat another burger, just do it. It's a tough time. It's going to pass. Do what you got to do right now to get through it.
Amen, brother. There's nothing else I could say. Blue Bayou, the righteous Mark O'Brien, taking over the world, coming back for round 2. I love you, brother. Thank you for everything.
Right back at you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Talk soon, dude. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Take care.
All right. Be well, brother.
If you like the show, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.